Well, hi everybody. Hey, it's Linda Lou here from Linda Lou Creates. And as always, I'm really so happy that you decide to join me today. I am going to share with you a DIY stenciling technique, I guess, where we're going to create our own stencil and then create two cards with it. And so these are the two cards that I want to share with you. And let's get started. So let me show you. This is the first one that we're going to make, but and then this one was sort of created out of this one. I'll explain whenever I show it a little bit better to you. First up is the DIY stencil, and what I used was this Many Medallions die set. And I used this very large die here. I absolutely love this one. I used it in another video to create a background for one of my cards. Love it. This time, I just cut it out of cardstock to make my own stencil. So what I'm going to do, you could probably cut this out of like acetate if you would prefer, but I just went ahead, I used a thicker cardstock to be able to handle the sponging that I'm going to do over this. So, you know, keep that in mind. So I have a piece here of the thick Whisper White. It is cut right now at 5.5 by 4.25. And I just want to be able to have enough cardstock there to have the stencil cover it, and then I can cut it down to size. I'm okay with that. So what I'm going to do first is get it taped down. Now I am using a like a post-it note tape. I found it at Walmart, so you can just buy this. It's just like post-it notes, so it'll be gentle to your paper whenever you pull it up. But all I'm going to do is just tape it down, and I don't have it very straight, do I? So that's one thing you're going to want to do is make sure you're straight. So let's try this again. Like I said, I am going to be cutting things down, but it's going to be a little bit easier for me if I start off with it straight. So the colors now of ink that I'm going to be using here, I've been on a kick using subtles, so today it's going to be Pool Party and Soft Seafoam. Okay, so let me start with the soft seafoam. You can use sponge daubers, you can use a brayer. I just happen to have a sponge that I cut into pieces, so that's what I'm going to use here. So I'm going to start with the soft seafoam. And let's just go ahead and get that sponge with some ink on it. Now, because this is rather delicate, just be careful, okay, whenever you go to sponge over it. Now, also make sure that you are getting into those open spaces then too. Yes, you're coloring the stencil itself because it is out of cardstock, but I want to make sure that I can get my ink down into these open spaces. Some of these holes that are here within that, you're not going to get in there very well, and that's okay. That's kind of the fun of stenciling and seeing what it is that you end up with. That ta-da moment that I always talk about when you pull it up. It's always fun to see that. So go ahead. I'm kind of a heavy-handed when it comes to sponging. So you do it to the point that you like it, all right? That's what I'm doing here, just by adding more and more and more ink. And don't worry if you come off. Just, like I say, really try and push that ink into those open spaces. All right, now we can come back to this in a moment. Let me get the Pool Party now going. Now, because I have my two different colors here, I also want to make sure that it blends for me. So I'll start off, I like to kind of start off a little bit light first because you can always add more color. It's hard to then take it away. So I do want to overlap where I come here where the green was. I do want to make sure that I, like I say, I blend in those two colors so that I don't have a harsh line. So I'm going to allow that pool party to kind of get mixed in with where that soft sea foam was. So let me keep going here for a couple more swipes. And we'll just take a look. Some of these spots up here are a little light, so I want to make sure I can get my ink in there, really work it in. And then, well, let me do one more here. Once I get it to the point that I like the amount of pool party on there, I am going to come back with one more swipe of my green, the soft sea foam, just to, again, get that blending here where those two overlap. Okay, just to make sure it's a nice smooth transition between the two colors. I'm just doing two colors. Obviously you can do many, many more colors if you want. So I'm just seeing a lot of white through some of these, so I want to make sure I have it. So, okay, I'm liking that. One thing with sponging, be careful because your hands do get dirty. So let me just wipe them real quick here off to the side, and it will be my ta-da moment coming up here in a second. So this is why I like this tape, because it will pull right off without ripping my cardstock. So, all right, and now, ta-da! Now here's what I was saying. Initially, my plan was to only make a card using this, but because I used cardstock, when I looked at this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't let that go to waste. So that's why where the second card came from, was then seeing this. So let me real quick, I am going to cut this down to size that I want to use. And like I said, this was a quarter sheet right here, so it was the 5.5 by 4 1/4. I'm actually going to cut this piece down here, excuse me, to 4 3/4 by 3.5. All right, so I'm going to start off here by, I'm not going to just go straight into 4 3/4. I am going to kind of, because you see how these ends are white, so I want to make sure that those come off. So I cut off that side, and now here's 4, here's 3/4, and there we go. Okay, now 3.5. Same idea. I don't want to just cut 3.5 inches off. Well, maybe I do. Let me see. This one, because I have a lot of the blue, I might just go 3.5 with where it is. Let's kind of see how it's going to look. Yeah, let's go ahead, and we're just going to cut it right here. Okay, so there is my piece now. While I have the trimmer out, I'm also going to cut my die cut piece here. I'm going to cut off some of these extra pieces. I'm only going to use 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 of these lines or strips or columns or whatever I want to call those. So let me just go ahead and get this in. Okay, now that's trimmed off. So I'm just going to use this for another project. All right, so let me just flip this around. And now I'm going to, what this will end up being is a width of 3 1/4. Okay, so let me find my 3 1/4 line. There we go. All right. All right. Here we go. And that's it. All right. Now some of these little ends here, I'm going to cut those off with my scissors, okay, just to make it a little smoother. All right, so let me go ahead and put my trimmer away. So now we have the two pieces for our cards. These are our backgrounds. So like I say, because of this being kind of an odd shape whenever I cut it, I'm just going to use my scissors and trim off some of these extra little pieces that are sticking out here. Try and smooth this out. All right, and there we go. All right. So this was the stencil. It was going to be just the stencil, but like I said, I liked it too much and was like, I have to use that. So let me come back to this though. Let's get the pieces and parts that we need to make the card, and let me bring the card back in to share. All right. So I have a piece of Pool Party that is my card base, and it is cut 5.5, 8.5, and this score line is at 4 1/4. I have a piece of soft seafoam already adhered, and this measures 5 by 3 3/4. I've already taped inside my piece on the inside 5 1/4 by 4. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you what I did. Out of black cardstock, let me bring in the die set. It is called Friendly Silhouettes. All right, and these are the two dies that I used, and this die is the one that gave me this cat of nine tails. Love that one, but I thought I'd also just try out the other one, more of a floral image here, silhouette. So all I'm going to do is figure out where I want to adhere this, and yes, it's going to extend out over, and I can just simply trim that off. I actually think I like it kind of cascading down this way. So let me go ahead. What we'll do is we will trim off the excess then. So let me go ahead, and just some of these bigger parts of the die, I can just put a drop of glue in there. I like to make sure my things adhere down. So all right, so here we go. And that should do it. All right, I'm going to come around here and adhere it here at the end and at the bottom. So it's flush on the right side of the card stock and at the bottom then. So there we go. All right, let me trim this off real quick. And then I am going to, oops, cut off there. And now I'm just going to adhere this down. Okay, or just hold it down. Let me show you here too my sentiment. It comes from the many medallions that I used to create the stencil has a stamp set that is bundled with it. So the two of these together, when you purchase them out of the new Stampin' Up! Catalog, you save 10%. So it is this Many Mates stamp set that I got out the You're So Nice out of here. All right. So what I did was I heat embossed it using white embossing powder, and then cut it out with a fun die there, and have a couple dimensionals on the back of that. So let me see, am I pretty well down? If I need to, I can always add a couple other little drops of glue to the back here if I need. So let me just go ahead, because this is handy. I'm just going to use my liquid glue and straight down to the card it's going to go. All right, now I'm just going to change it up placement wise with this one. You can see how I have it on the right side, but because my flowers are up high on the right side, I'm going to make my sentiment be then on the left. Okay, so pop that up right here. I love these little dragonfly silhouettes too, so I'm going to pop those on. Actually, I'm going to glue those down, so let me just see where I want them. Okay. that works. Sometimes you just have to set them down and see what works for you. So there, and I'm not quite done. I'm just going to add a couple metallic pearls yet. I happen to have those right here. They come in gold and they come in silver. I'm going to use the gold for this one. And let's pop a couple on here. Probably 3. That's usually my number of things to do here. So 1, 2, and where am I going to put my third one? How about up here somewhere? Or over here? Sometimes I feel like I should just put it down and be done with it. So there we go. There is card number 1. Just using a different die for the silhouette. So let's get on to then card number 2, influenced by the use of that stencil. So here is what we created, and here are the pieces. Let me bring back the card. Now the card base again is Pool Party. Also the same measurements here, 8.5 by 5.5, scored down the center at 4 1/4. I have on the inside, I have my 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of white. On the front, I have this piece of basic black. Now this measures 4.5 by 3 3/4. All right, because the die cut is approximately 4 by 3 1/4, and I am going to mount it on a piece of Whisper White, just so it can show through. I like having that sort of pop there of the color showing through. So I will just dot on some glue here on the back of this. Okay, I know, probably too much glue, but I like to make sure that it lays flat for me. So let's go ahead and pop this down. Okay, sometimes I use my blocks to help me to hold this stuff down. So while it's doing that for a second, I'm just going to show you then again out of the Mini Mates stamp set. I used the Just Thinking of You. I die cut that out with one of the stitched shapes, and then got the layering circles to give me a soft sea foam and a scalloped black layer then there as well. Okay, so let's see what we got. I can go ahead now and adhere this down. So remember this piece of white, I don't know if I had mentioned it, it is 3.5 by 4 1/4. So I am putting it down then on a piece of black that is, believe it or not, 1/4 of an inch bigger. Normally I just do my 1/8 of an inch, but this time I did 1/4 of an inch. So the white is 3.5 by 4 1/4, making the black then 3 3/4 by 4 1/2. Okay, so I have that. I'm going to adhere now my sentiment that has the dimensionals already on, and I will pop that right here. Okay, I tied a bow already with some linen thread. I have it with a glue dot on it. Let me just kind of roll that up on itself so it's not showing through. And I'm just going to adhere it right down here at an angle. I'm not always a long tail person for my bows, so, but this time, I don't know, I felt like it did okay having the long ties on it there. So this time I'm going to use the silver metallic pearls. So let's get those added on. We'll do 3 of these as well, if I can pick them up. And that's just how quick the second card can be made. So there we go. Here is the second card. So let me bring them all back in again, share them with you. So here is card number 1. Actually, no, that's card number 2. And here is now card number 1. Doing some DIY stenciling. Well, hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it when you do. That way you won't miss out on any new videos that I post. I do have a blog. It's lindaloucreates.com. Linda Lou Creates is also my Facebook page, so you can search for that. I do Facebook Lives twice a week and do all kinds of fun stuff there. So be sure and follow me with that as well. So thanks again, everybody, for joining me, and I hope you get a chance to create today. Bye now.